Welcome to the Savvy Musician Show. I have a very special guest today, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. And for me, this is always a privilege because this particular person happens to also be a student of mine. So that makes me extra proud. So welcome, Dave. Share with us who you are, your band and your genre, and how you kind of got started with this journey.
All right, cool. Thank you. And it's such an honor to be a part of your podcast today, Leah. I've been really excited about this. Just thrilled, actually, when the conversation got started about exploring this podcast. So thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of it. And thank you for your excellence in teaching and your openness with sharing knowledge that you've learned and your tenacity in continuing to progress and mature in like about 50 different areas all at one time. I admire you, and I'm thankful to be on this podcast with you. So my name's Dave Powers. My wife, Tara, and I have been married for 15 years, and we started our band MountainCity at the end of 2015, December of 2015. So I guess we just passed a 3-year mark. We're kind of like a singer-songwriter, folk, country, pop type of influences. People that are like, mid-30s to mid-60s that are married really love our music, mostly women. I always tell the dudes, I'm like, hey, I know that we may not be your favorite type of music or whatever, but just in a couple hours from now, you'll probably be thanking us because we just sing love songs and stuff. And so everybody usually gets a kick out of that. But yeah, it's such an amazing thing to be a part of MountainCity because it's a dream of my wife's to write and record music, to provide things and language and music that are meaningful to people that could be songs for their seasons. And so I love helping people pursue and identify and pursue their dreams. And so in this case, I get to use that to help my wife pursue some dreams on her heart. And that fires me up.
I love that. That's great. So you're in the country folkish type of genre. And how did you begin this whole journey? Like, how did you come to Savvy Musician Academy? And then let's talk about kind of something cool that you've discovered.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I saw the Academy stuff and all your courses on Facebook. You're doing some live Facebook events. This is years ago. And I'm an entrepreneur. And so when I see other entrepreneurs that are just crushing it, there's a natural kind of magnetic pull towards seeing what that's about. I got sucked in for all 3 hours, watched every minute of what you said, and then signed up immediately and told my wife, oh, I'm going to learn so much from this delightful Canadian woman. She is going to crush it. And so I took that class, I upgraded the 2.0, and I did the Facebook 10K in 7 days stuff and have just thoroughly enjoyed it. And now I have the privilege of being a part of the Superfan System Elite program, which I'm loving, by the way.
That's awesome. Yeah, this program is definitely not for the faint of heart. It's pretty challenging. It's a steep learning curve for a lot of people who are not previously familiar with digital marketing and those aspects. What I get excited about with you guys going through this program is that you guys already have a little bit of success. You already have a following. You have a very nicely established identity in a brand, and you have some momentum going already. So what gets me really fired up is seeing what you'll do now when you have all these systems and these processes and these launch systems and the 6-figure launch funnel that we use even at Savvy Musician Academy. It's literally the same thing. It's the same thing that pretty much Jeff Walker uses or any of these launch people. So I get excited to see, what's it going to do for your organic stuff? What's it going to do for your next launches? Because this is really how it's done, is just putting these systems and processes in place, doing these calendars, doing all this email marketing, doing these funnels, doing the ads, all that. And it can be a little overwhelming, but I know you guys are going to totally rock this. And I'm really excited also to see what happens to some of the other things you have momentum with right now. And that one of those things is Spotify for you guys. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about Spotify for a second. How have you viewed Spotify in the last few years that you guys have been doing this? and what has changed and what's going really well right now?
Okay, great. Well, I got actually the thing before the 10K in 7 days program that you put out came out. I was looking on the back end of Spotify, because Spotify has a thing where you can sign up as an artist to kind of claim your profile. When you get into the back end of that, there's an app for your phone and you can view it online and stuff too. But when I got into that, I started seeing that people, not just in the United States or Canada or Australia or the UK were listening to our music, but there was just a ton of people from the Philippines and Brazil and Mexico and different places listening to our music. And I thought, well, that I didn't know that, but I didn't consider that to be an option really. And so I started targeting Facebook ads to those specific countries. And man, I think in one night, I think the first night that I tried it, I think we had 800 new followers in 6 hours or something like that. And then it turned into like I got kind of addicted to it. You know, I'd be like updating my phone every 5 seconds, just watching the likes climb and climb and climb. And once I established that process, I saw the course that you put out. I took it and implemented that as well. And that was just incredibly powerful as well. So once I got that platform kind of established and moving, I was actually going to move over to Instagram and start building that. I kind of work on one platform at a time because it's a little too brain damaging to wrap your head around the specifics of each individual platform and how they function and work. So I was going to do that. And then I had this idea. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to view Spotify as a social media platform, and I'm going to learn how it works. Because if I did that same thing with Instagram, for instance, I'd probably have to spend money in order to gain followers, which is typical. In Spotify, if I figure out, something, I could actually make money there. And so it can be a legitimate stream of income for us on a monthly basis. And so I started poking my head into it. And I thought, because I had such a powerful platform on Facebook, it'd be like an easy transition to get people over to Spotify and following and listening and all that stuff. And so the two metrics that I was keeping my eyes on in Spotify were monthly listeners, which Spotify does it on a 28-day kind of section of time. And so I was watching that, and then I was watching individual streams on the back end, and then Spotify will kind of list like your top 5 or most popular songs at the time, and a number of streams that they'd been listened to or whatever. So I started marketing and promoting the Spotify stuff, and I think it got up to like 629 monthly listeners, and I was so ticked because I thought, man, I've got like 170,000 people following us on Facebook, and I've got 629 monthly listeners. This is like driving me crazy. And so I actually shot Spotify an email, because it became clear to me that if you got on a Spotify, like a legit Spotify editorial playlist, a playlist that Spotify curates themselves, that obviously they've got tons of followers, and so your monthly listeners are going to increase and your individual streams are going to increase. So anyway, I shot them an email and I said, hey, how can I get on one of those playlists? And they were like, well, you have to be awesome, basically, is what they said to me. That you have to be good. And I was like, dang it. Okay, well, my response back to them was, can I just pay to get on one of your playlists? And their response was, that's against our terms and conditions, which I understood. They don't want to do the pay to play stuff. And so I thought that was a roadblock. And so I sat back that evening and started thinking about, how Spotify might work. And it occurred to me that Spotify as an organization isn't the only entity on that platform that has playlists. There's individual people and there's other businesses that are curating playlists and all that stuff. And if I could somehow find them and get on their playlists, it would have the same effect, to a lesser degree, but the same effect. Well, I got an idea about how to do that, and I'll fill you in, because I don't want this to be like a 15-minute monologue. Sorry about that.
No, this is fantastic. I think everyone listening right now is like, hey, give me the details. I want details. So okay. No, continue.
Okay, cool. So I started trying to find out how I could connect with people that were curating playlists, individual people or whatever. And the thought occurred to me, you know what? When I sign into Spotify, I use my Facebook login information. And when I look at my profile in Spotify, it actually shows a picture of my Facebook profile. So I was like, oh, so if I have a name and a face, I can find these people, I can befriend them on Facebook, and I can shoot them a message and say, hey, look, I love your playlist, listen to it. I think that our music might be a fit on there. If you'd be okay with just listening to it, and if it's a fit, oh man, I'd love to help you promote your playlist or just show gratitude in some way or generosity in some way. Definitely steering clear of obviously the terms and conditions of Spotify. They don't want you to pay to play or whatever, but there isn't anything in the terms and conditions about just being generous or friendly or helpful. So anyway, I started shooting all of these messages out all over Facebook. I would find these people. So the way that you do it is you just go to the search bar on Spotify and type in a word that kind of is descriptive about one of your songs. So let me back up. What I did before this process was I went through every single one of our songs and I wrote down keywords that I think would be good descriptors for the music. So our stuff is country, folk, it works in coffee house, it's singer-songwriter, but we've also done some remixes. So there's some pop stuff, some EDM stuff, all that. So anyway, I would break down kind of the general genres, but then I would use descriptive words like moods, or this song would go great in the summertime, or this is great for a rainy day, or whatever it is. And so I kind of treated each individual song as a single instead of as a body of work. And then I started promoting individual songs to individual playlists. So I was basically, I was profiling their playlist and seeing if our music would be a good fit. And when I felt confident that it would be, then I'd reach out to them. So I started doing that like crazy. And then I started learning a couple of things. One was that when you get on somebody's playlist, there's two ways that Spotify will promote your music. One is what I alluded to earlier. It's an editorial playlist. This is where a human curator from the company of Spotify will put your song on a playlist, and then boom, your monthly listeners and your individual streams, can go up. The second way is they've created an algorithm that watches all music on their platform, which is an incredible resource. But what they're watching for is, are your songs being listened to? Are they being saved? Are you as an artist being followed? Are people pushing next when they're listening to your song? Or are they listening to it all the way through? There's all these different metrics that they're measuring. And when a song of yours starts to gain momentum where people are listening to the whole thing and maybe saving it, maybe adding it to their own playlists, or following you as an artist, or not, pushing next as your song is playing, then Spotify's algorithm actually takes your song and puts it into their Discovery Weekly playlist and some other playlists as well, but that's kind of their primary one. So it occurred to me that my journey with Spotify wasn't just about getting on other people's playlists. It was really about getting on their playlists in order to trigger the Spotify algorithm so Spotify would start promoting my music for me, kind of as a radio station a little bit. So when I started doing that, I started with 629 monthly listeners. My goal that year in 2017 was to have 50,000 streams total on that platform. I started July 1st of 2017 with this idea, and 6 weeks later, I think it was maybe August 20th, I had 62,000 monthly listeners. And by the end of the year, I had 1.8 million streams. And so that's like better than 50,000. You know what I mean? I was stoked out of my mind. I was so excited. I also discovered that this is a long-term play. So this isn't just something that you crush like for 2 days and then sit back. This is something you just chip away at over and over and over and over and over again. You translate your keywords into different languages so you can tap into those platforms or playlists. You try to find out ways so that you're just removing barriers from your music continuing to grow or get on different playlists So we're on playlists all over the world because of this work that I've done, and then because of how Spotify has promoted our music. So right now, because I got on other playlists, Spotify is overwhelmingly the largest promoter of our music on their own platform. I think they've introduced us to 500,000 new listeners since July of 2017 that I could not have reached, even on being on those other playlists. So anyway, I think I'll pause and then you can ask some questions or whatever.
Yeah. So lots of things are occurring to me. Like, first of all, congratulations. That is so smart. And I love that you just logically just like thought through the process and just thought to yourself, I'm going to treat this like any other social media platform, and I'm going to get to know all the ins and outs of it. No, I'm not going to, dabble and go halfway here. I'm going to go all in. And I think that's how you have success on any platform. So congratulations, you did it. I mean, you're absolutely crushing it. I think I see here that you've now got 200,000 monthly listeners.
I think today, gosh, I would hope that would be the case. In fact, what I did when I did have that was at the end of 2017, we released a Christmas album, and I got on some specific playlists that took our monthly listenership up to 200,000. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing about Spotify is because it's on a 28-day reoccurring kind of rhythm, what happens is, let's say that at the beginning of the month, you had like 5,000 people listen to your music. 28 days after that 5,000 number is going to drop off of your monthly listener thing. And so the way it works for Spotify is it's always fluctuating. It's like up and down, depending on if you had big days or small days or whatever. So it's always kind of ebbing and flowing. So at the end of 2017 in December, it did peak and hit 200,000 monthly listeners. And I think that was a lot because of our Christmas album. And so when we rounded the corner of the year, all of those Christmas listeners are dropping off. And so it went from like 200,000 down to dramatically down. So it's almost depressing in a way. It's like you gotta be mentally stable. And so that as these numbers are crashing, you're not like, oh, my life's over. So I think it went down to 43,000 or something like that at the bottom of that. And then it started climbing up to, it usually sits like between 50 and 80,000 for us, depending on what's going on. But I continue to engage in the process. So it's kind of always building more and more, but it really does ebb and flow.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So they have a 28-day metric window. It's like the metrics showing you, all the data that's happening. And that's the same way with so many other platforms. Like, it's not like, with YouTube, people tend to subscribe and then they forget they subscribed. And so you just kind of have this long tail of building subscribers. People don't tend to unsubscribe as easily as they do to like unliking Facebook pages or, deleting a song from their Spotify playlist. So you can't put all, like you said, all your emotional stability on like a platform like this. So that's good. This is setting expectations and realistic goals for what people can expect. There's going to be ebb and flow. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs in this. I like that you said that it's a long-term plan. There is no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme in any kind, in the music business or any business. That just doesn't exist. So anything you're doing really should be a long-term plan, and anything short-term should be in the long-term plan. So this sounds like something, like if I were to implore this methodology, this is something I would just add to my daily activities. This is like going to go in my daily to-do list. In my case, I have an assistant, so I would probably get my assistant to help me do some of the research. And I think you could probably get bandmates or even a kid or a friend to help with some of this research, as long as, you as the artist are like eyeballing it, looking over it, approving it, saying, yeah, like that fits, and, giving the green light on it. But this to me seems like, just include it in your routine for your marketing activities. So like in my mind, I immediately start to create Yeah, what does the to-do list look like? Okay, I'm going to basically create metadata and keywords and stuff for each of my songs. I'm going to take that keyword, I'm going to start doing some research. For me, my tendency would be to put it in Airtable or a spreadsheet where I can keep track of my songs, my keywords, which playlist did this end up on, who did I contact, did I get a response from them? That's where my brain goes, is let's make this official and actually keep track of this stuff. Do you guys do stuff like that, or do you kind of wing it?
Oh no, we don't wing it. Very intentional about all of the people that we connect with. I think the power of this, so I want to say a couple of things about the long-term play and the investment and the idea that it does ebb and flow and that it's hard work. So what I realized was I've sent out hundreds, maybe 1,000 or more messages on Facebook, and 95% of them never contact or never respond. And the reason for that is, I think, first of all, you're maybe somebody you don't know is friending your account. You don't have any other connections or friends to them. Chances of you accepting that invitation are low. Also, in Messenger, I think Facebook is trying to put up some guards so that people aren't spammed. And so they put it kind of in a different folder. So it's not just
the other folder.
Yeah. It's not immediately coming up in their feed so it's not in front of their eyeballs. And then tons of people are on Messenger and many people are not. And so, the chances of them seeing it, reading it, engaging in it, following through on it, it's just a lower percentage of people. And so I would say expect 95% of the people that you reach out to never even to contact you or even see your invitation, which then you can do some further research. I call it like guerrilla marketing or whatever. Just the idea of tracking these people down, maybe finding an email address and shooting them an email. And you can definitely go down that road. I definitely have gone down that road. But to your point, Leah, I have created a spreadsheet where I keep track of all of the different playlists that I've got added to. And I do try to get their emails for the purpose of I want to create friendship with them. I want to actually care about them and ask them about their story and stuff. But a couple of things occurred to me along the way as well. And that is that if I'm developing these friendships and these people actually do like our music, when we go on tour, that is not just a potential person in the seats, that's a potential relationship. Could I do a house concert with them? Could they invite a bunch of their friends over? And I get new exposure to, them and all their friends. But also a secondary thing that I started realizing was if I continue to put out music that I think would go well on their playlist, that's not an introduction anymore. That's a friendship. So I can just shoot them an email and say, hey, I got this new song coming out. Could you listen to it? If you feel like it's a fit, could you add it? And if not, no problem. And so now I'm building a network of curators so that when I release that particular style of music or something that I think would fit, it's real easy to get it on there, which makes it easy to trigger the algorithm for Spotify, which makes it easy for them to promote the music. So it's been a cool journey.
That is brilliant for so many reasons. And one of the biggest ones is because you're leading with value. How can I bring value to you rather than what can you do me a favor? Can you do this for me? And we don't have any relationship. So you are leading with a relationship. And like you said, now you're building this network, this database of people who you have a relationship with, and that can turn into more relationships. And as you know, I'm a huge fan of actually having relationships with your fans. So in any, whatever capacity is possible and available for you. So this is great. I mean, I think there's nothing worse than people, unsolicited messages where it's all about me. Hey, can you do this for me? Me. And although we are pursuing an end objective in this case, we're also looking to help improve something for them. It's this will help your listenership or improve your playlist. We want to offer, hey, if it's a fit. And that I like that approach of humility too, because you're letting them decide if it's a fit. You're not hey, this is going to be the best song on your playlist. You're hey, take a listen. Your listeners might enjoy this. It may be a fit for you. Let them decide. I really like that approach. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. I've people have really been appreciative too when I said, hey, can I just promote your playlist for you as well? So let's see if we can get you some more listeners. And I've even talked to some of them saying, hey, I have friends that are artists and I want to help them. So if I find a song that I think might be a good fit for your playlist, that's a song that they've released, would you be okay if I just shot you an email? You can listen to it. If you like it, chuck it on there. And if not, you don't have to. And so that's a way for me to bless some fellow artists, if I can say it that way, to add value to their lives. And that's been a really cool thing, just advocating for others. So instead of it just being, like you said, all about me and my music, what can I do? How can I leverage these relationships that I have to encourage or push forward the dreams of others? And I think that's a powerful approach to living and a generous approach to living. And I do believe in the power of generosity.
Definitely. And it'll go far no matter what you do. And not just on the Spotify platform, on any platform at all. Facebook is one of my favorites, even though it's an ever-changing platform. And all of these platforms will be constantly changing. So I think we've got to be willing to be very adaptable. And that's where relationships really come into play also, because these platforms are changing. And if for some reason the algorithms completely change, I mean, you'd still have these contacts, you still have these relationships. So that's another really important thing. So yeah, this is so helpful and informative. I know people are just going to get a ton of just value out of this, and I know they're going to go start doing. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I have some exciting news for you. If you have been wanting to know how you can crack the code of Spotify and increase your listeners and your monthly followers so that you can create a regular stream of income, this is going to be so exciting. Join the wait list and be the first to know when our new Spotify mini course is live. Go to savvymusicianacademy.com/Spotify. That's savvymusicianacademy.com/Spotify, and sign up for the wait list, and we will email you as soon as that mini course is live. This is going to be so exciting. I'm very proud to present this to you. This is unlike any other teaching out there, and I promise it's going to be worth it. Thanks again for listening today, and we'll see you soon.